Warning, the following clips contain very strong language. Viewing is not recommended for small children or soccer moms. For the rest of you degenerates, let's rock.
Oh my god, I am such an introverted weirdo. Standing over here in the corner of the party all alone. Act natural, be cool, man, be cool. Ah, fuck, there's a group of people coming over here.
Oh, excuse me, can you take our photo for us?
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh no, not this again. Fuck my life. What is this, the new iPhone? I don't know how to use this. Why's the camera look so different now?
Sorry, I'm not used to this. I don't usually use camera phones.
Oh my god, dude, you sound so fucking pretentious. Just take the photo, man.
You want, vertical or horizontal?
Fuck, they know I'm a filmmaker. They're expecting this snapshot to be a goddamn masterpiece. Go for the high angle.
Everybody scooch in. You in the back there, yeah, okay. All right.
Do not fuck this up.
Smile.
Oh my god, this picture blows ass. Just give him the phone right now and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, here, check it out.
Don't ask him to review it. Oh my god, dude, you're an idiot. They're gonna make you take it again.
Okay. Jessica,
They fucking hate it. Abort, abort.
Hey, Bill, yeah, I'm over here. No, you stay there. I'll come to you. I'm gonna come to you. Sorry, Bill's expecting me. It's really nice seeing you guys again. Bye.
Okay.
Oh, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, you fucking idiot. This is why I told you to buy that pocket cam at Target, man. This would have never happened. You just take the photo on a real camera, edit in Lightroom, and email it to them later. Where is the fucking exit in this place? I gotta get out of here before they tell everyone that I fucking suck. My life will be over, everyone will be laughing at me. They already know I'm a fucking YouTube creator. I fucking suck. Where the fuck is the exit? Ah, fuck it, I'll just tell them I was drunk. Alright, just find a new corner. Lay low, man. Be cool. Fuck, I gotta get a pocket cam. Oh, damn, now that's a shot. Oh man, stupid iPhone. Face detection never fucking works. Just open already. Where is the camera? So many apps. I need to delete this shit. Fuck, it's gone. Too late. You blew it. You loser.
This would have never happened if I had a pocket cam. Fucking flat tire. My life sucks.
Everyone's iPhone photos look so good. How do they get them to look like that? Hey, I got 2 words for you. Who cares? It looks too digital anyways. It's trash. Hey, look at me. Fuck iPhones.
Man, fucking iPhone. I need a pocket cam. A real pocket camera. I'm a tangible man. I deserve tangible things. Now where the fuck is the nearest Best Buy? The reality is the FX30 is just too much of a camera for me when it comes as just a shits and giggle camera. And then I started thinking, well, what's something fun I could replace it with? Could I get something that can actually fit in my pocket? You know, we've all talked about the Sigma FP, the original Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, the OG Super 16 sensor. I had both of those cameras, by the way, most of you know that. Those aren't actually truly pocketable cameras, right? Not even the Canon EOS M is truly pocketable, you know, because we get excited of how we want to use those cameras. So, you know, I'm not necessarily replacing the FX30 with a pocketable cinema camera, but just more of a shits and giggles camera that can actually fit in my pocket. And what if it could do video and photography? And maybe it also has like a really nice pop-out viewfinder with an OLED screen, and maybe even a pop-up flash and a tiltable flash at that. You would be surprised how much a tiltable flash comes in handy. What if we could get something that was 20 frames per second with 0 blackout? Wouldn't that be wild? With industry-leading autofocus, phase detect, backside illuminated sensors, sensor, something with 12 stops of dynamic range. What about also the video specs? So let's get something that can at least shoot 4K, and then maybe something that could even do, you know, like 100 frames per second, hell, 1000 frames a second would be wild, right? That's an HD, not 4K, but something that has active stave for not just photos, but also for video, which is even more important. Oh, and you know what would be really nice too? What if it had a 24 to 200 millimeter lens, full frame equivalent, but a 24 to 200 in your pocket. And what if that lens was a Zeiss lens? Does something like that exist? Oh, and let's not forget the screen. Can we have a screen that pops up this way for selfie mode, pops this way for 90-degree off the hip, maybe something like this for like tabletop style? It's this right here, the Sony RX100 VII. So again, you're not gonna be, you know, looking to shoot your next big movie on this thing, but that's not what this camera is about, not for me. Again, a shits and giggles YouTube Patreon dedicated camera. You just need something to film yourself. You need something you wanna throw in your pocket and take with you anywhere you're going. I mean, I love the experience of shooting on my Leica M10 rangefinder. I think the rangefinder experience is something that every photographer should experience, but the M10 is not something I wanna take to the grocery store. I'm that type of guy, I'm a little neurotic. I like to take my camera everywhere because you just never know what you're gonna run into. If you saw my 1-year review of the RX1R Mark II, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You just happen to find yourself, every now and then the universe will throw you something special, and if you don't have your camera with you, well then you're left with your phone, which is better than nothing, but if you're like me, I want something a little bit more tangible. Now here's the argument with that. This only has a 1-inch sensor, but it's a 20 megapixel sensor, 20 frames per second with no blackout if you're a photography person. If you know about this camera, it's basically on the street, it's known as the miniature micro-sized Sony A9, but it also has a clean HDMI. Again, remember, I need something to keep filming myself for YouTube. So let's hook this thing up to the Blackmagic Video Assist and let's see what it looks like in ProRes. Okay folks, so if you want to jump ahead, I do compare some video footage out of this little camera compared to the Sony FX30, log profiles versus other kind of baked in looks, and then also I have a segment where I compare the photos to the Leica M10. Right now I want to talk about kind of some of the features that I like about this camera versus what I don't like about it, and kind of talk about some of the add-ons that I have on here. First up is the screen. The screen to me is probably the biggest selling point of this little camera. I absolutely love all of the different things. We talked about that in the talking head, but the durability of it, it's quite strong. This is a very, very strong screen. In fact, this camera did fall out of my pocket when I was riding my bicycle, and you'll see it took a little digger right there. So it's very slight there, but there is a little mark there, and the mode dial switch here got a little banged up. So I think that's where it landed first. It went down and then bounced and it landed like this, because when I turned around, the screen popped out. All these little ports here for the micro HDMI, the mic jack, and the multi micro USB, all of those were popped open, so I was quite nervous. The screen was popped open like this and it was sitting just like that in the middle of the road, but I heard it pop quite loud, so I was a little nervous, but that was quite a few days ago, and I've been using it daily for both video and photos, and I haven't noticed anything weird. Nothing happened to the lens, thank God. Nothing happened to the screen either. It was just these little dings right here on the mode dial. You'll notice that I have a little skin on it. This is just to add some texture to it because these cameras are very, very slippery. There's also this OEM Sony rubber grip. That's just something a little extra to add on to, you know, and it still just slid right out of my pocket. So you'll notice here on the front, I have a lens mate. So this is kind of cool because, just a heads up for those of you that don't know, the Mark VI and the Mark VII, they do not have internal NDs, but the previous models do. So even though you lose the ND with this Mark VII version, the reason why I went with it ultimately is because the 24 to 200 lens is just amazing. I absolutely love it. It comes in handy all the time. I absolutely love it. I love shooting from my steering wheel sometimes, just catching random moments, as you'll see here. 24 to 200 is it's amazing.
why I chose this over something like the Mark V-A, because the Mark V-A would probably be the other choice because you get internal ND. It's only a 24-70 versus the 24-200, but the real reason to get either the Mark VII or the Mark VI version is because it's the newer Sony color science. So you are going to benefit from, once they started, you know, changing their sensors and getting more of a, dare I say, pleasing skin tone quality out of their sensors. So let's talk about this lens mate right here, because mainly you're not going to have internal NDs on this Mark VII version nor the Mark VI version. So you get this little lens mate thing here for like 25 bucks. You can now add any 52mm filter to the front. And you'll see there, it doesn't affect this lens at all. Turn it on, right? It doesn't affect the abilities of this lens one bit. Normally, I would just use what I use with all of my G lenses. I'm currently filming this on the FX6 with the Sony little tiny 40mm f2.5 G lens. I've had it since my A7S III days. I absolutely love it. It pairs perfectly with its little companion, the 24mm f2.8 G lens. They're basically the same size, so you can easily swap them on a gimbal without having to rebalance. And they are 49mm filter threads. And what I use on those since day one is this Nisi little variable ND filter here. You notice it has hard stops. It's a really, really nice. It's nano coated. The problem is it's too small for the lens mate, right? Again, the lens mate is 52mm. So I didn't really want to spend as much money as the Nisi one. And what I found is this Neewer one. Now, first of all, I hate anything with the name Neewer on it. I'm not a fan of Neewer products. But funny enough, this one did have the best reviews out of all the ones I was researching, so I kind of took a chance on it. The weird thing about this one is it has a quarter, well, it's Neewer's generic version of a quarter black pro mist mixed in with the variable ND, so that's kind of interesting. It has hard stops, it has this little lever. It's pretty decent quality overall. It's not nearly as crappy as I thought it was going to be, but it does still push a little bit magenta, but guess what? This Nisi one does as well. So this is like 3 times the price, and it's still, this one is still pushing magenta the same way the Nisi one does. So I'll have links to these items down below if you feel so inclined to check them out. That's always a great way, a very free way to support the channel if you're a fan here. That is actually the lens mate attached to the rear of the filter. Again, 52mm filter, any filter of your choice. And then this is bayonet style right here. And you'll notice it just clicks on. And now you have full control of your ND situation. Okay, so kind of nice there. Let's see if we can see it working with the background. Yeah, notice that. So right now it's adapting because I'm in P mode, so it's auto ISO. Let me talk to you about one of my biggest gripes about this camera. I'm gonna pop this filter off real quick. This is more of a user gripe, user error thing, but you'll notice this on switch lights up. So this is very confusing because I guess I'm used to the world of FX3, FX30s, FX6. Whenever I see the light on this, when I walk over, if I'm filming something or I look down, my brain tells me that this is the record button. So I always hit that to stop recording, when really I should hit either the shutter button or this little tiny movie button. Those are actually the start, stop, record buttons, not this. But the reason this is lit up, it lights up. And it just reminds me of, I guess from all the months of using the FX Cine cameras, I'm just used to seeing a light on it, and I always go, oh shit, and it always turns itself off. Now luckily this camera is smart enough, it finishes writing the video clip so that you don't lose your clip. It finishes storing it to the card before it actually shuts off. But that is a huge annoyance. I know that may be just specific to me, but it happens all the time. You got your pop-out flash. That's the tiltable flash. I absolutely love that. They kind of fixed the viewfinder on this too. So I did get to use a buddy of mine. He has an older RX100. I'm not sure what version his is, but the older ones, just know it's a 2-step process to use the viewfinder. So on the older ones, it pops up and then you have to hit another switch to make this part pop out. But you'll notice that's not the issue. They fixed that now. So all you got to do is pop this up, boom. Now, I don't have mine to go there immediately. I program my trash can button to jump over to that, and then I hit it again, and then it comes back to this. That's just so if I'm walking around, the screen's not always on. The OLED is really, really nice on this, by the way. The one thing I will say about this camera is, I mean, you'll notice, I mean, it went smack dab on the concrete and survived pretty dang well. So it is got some nice heft to it. It is very, very tiny, but it feels it's all metal. It's a quality product, so it makes you feel a little bit better about that price tag, right? The other thing that I will say about this that is another kind of annoying thing is these little baby tiny buttons. They're so tiny. It drives me insane. So anytime you're in the menus, I'll constantly find myself accidentally hitting things that I don't want to hit because the buttons are not only are they super tiny, they're very, very sensitive, and they're all clumped in this one little area. So that's just kind of a downside of having such a little tiny baby
palm-sized camera. It's literally the size of a deck of cards, but it just feels really nice. It's built well. Okay guys, just wanted to add 2 more things I forgot to mention yesterday, and that is battery life and the high temperature overheating issues, which on this camera, compared to the RX1R Mark II, way better in both aspects. So first of all, the battery life for this little RX100 Mark VII is much improved over the RX1R Mark II. Now, I think a lot of it could be because of the newer processor that we have in here. This is the Exmor RS Sony processor. Again, it's the same processor that's found inside of the A9. It's just one below the FX6, and the FX3, I think those are the Exmor RX sensors. So the sensor is really, really nice out of these little cameras. Not just the sensor, but the processor. And I think that has to do with the battery life lasting longer. For instance, when I shot both the opening sketches to this video out there in the park, that was multiple scenes, multiple angles, multiple takes, and just one battery the whole time, shooting in 4K the whole time. Then the third sketch was out in the bike path, same kind of scenario, multiple takes, multiple setups, or angles rather, and yeah, same thing, just one battery the whole time. So that is really, really impressive, in my opinion, coming from the world of the RX1R Mark II. First of all, the RX1R Mark II only does 1080p, and those batteries would have never lasted that long when shooting videos. So it is quite impressive. Now let's talk about overheating. So the longest talking head I've done in 4K video with this camera is an 18-minute long Patreon video, and no issues with overheating. And why I think that is, or why I know that's why that is because what we have in here is a feature that is not available on the RX1R Mark II, and that is that you can go in here, much like the A7S III, the FX30, the FX3, and you can turn off the high temp mode. So right in here in the setup menu, auto power off temperature, and much like the other Sony cameras, you can change that to high. And now it says the temperature of the device may rise. To prioritize recording time, would you like to change the setting? Okay. And now it will no longer shut off when it gets a little hot. And I was able to do, again, an 18-minute long talking head, no issues. And I saw a guy online saying he recorded a talking head for 55 minutes long. So that is a bonus of this. Also, just know that while recording, you can also plug into the micro USB and be powering the camera, providing constant power to it while recording with it. And that's also how I'm able to do longer talking heads, just in fear of you don't want that little battery to die while you're recording or doing a live stream, like using this as a webcam or something like that. The tip to that is you must absolutely use the micro USB cable that actually comes with the camera. It may charge the batteries, but it's probably not going to charge the camera. So you do need a specific micro USB cable that can, send enough voltage. And I just use my Nano V-mount batteries that have a USB slot. So just wanted to add those 2 items because I know that people will ask about overheating and battery life. I think it is very impressive with this little camera, moon steps beyond the RX1R Mark II. What we're about to watch is just a lot of very lame, non-scientific tests comparing the RX100 to the FX30. And this is really just to show kind of like maybe the power that the little RX100 Mark VII has, but also definitely show its drawbacks, but also I think to kind of show some of the drawbacks of the FX30 as well. So what we're looking at here is you can get slog3, sgamut3.cine out of the RX100 Mark VII, and there was with a simple color space transform applied in Resolve. So this is just a frontlit situation. I'm sitting in front of a window, and this is what you would get out of the can. I didn't make any adjustments to this. It's not bad, honestly, but again, keep in mind, the RX100 Mark VII is only an 8-bit camera, so not ideal to use slog3. Here is the FX30, slog3, sgamut3.cine. And here is with the basic color space transform applied in Resolve. And you'll notice it's much, much sharper. Again, the FX30 is a 6K resolution sensor, downsampled to 4K. It's a Super 35 sensor versus the little 1-inch sensor of the RX100 Mark VII. So it is quite a bit of difference in detail and resolution and sharpness. But now here they are side by side, and honestly, I kind of prefer the softer image of the RX100 VII. I really do. It almost looks similar to, dare I say, the Canon C70, just that little bit of softness. I kind of prefer it. Now here is the S-Cinetone right out of camera, and here is with me making some slight corrections to the S-Cinetone. And it is a little wild. because the S-Cinetone tends to push the highlights. I don't really prefer it much, but it's not bad. It retains the shadows pretty well. Here is my favorite out-of-the-can picture profile that the RX100 VII offers, which is HLG mode. And look at that. It's holding the shadows and still holding my face well. My skin tones look good in my opinion. Here's the HLG of the RX100 versus the S-Cinetone of the FX30. And yeah, I don't know. I actually do prefer the HLG. Now this is if you're just going straight out of camera, right? Here's the RX100 VII with HLG shooting through the window here. I want you to watch the moire and the aliasing that's happening on that window screen. But other than that, it's holding the detail quite well with her fur and all of that. And here is with the S-Log3 S-Gamut3.Cine out of the RX100 VII. Notice how low con and low saturated everything is with a basic color space transform applied here. So that is something to keep in mind, and there's with me adding a slight color boost, just adding saturation and contrast, because you'll notice when it's compared to the FX30 is much more much more contrasty or much more saturated with a basic CST applied. Here goes the FX30. Notice right there, see, I didn't do anything. That's just out of the can, basic CST applied in Resolve, color space transform. Nice saturation, nice contrast. It's holding the highlights a lot better, obviously. And I think this is a grand example between a 10-bit camera versus an 8-bit camera when shooting in S-Log3. The highlight roll-off is much better on the FX30 as well. Just everything is kind of better out of the can with a basic CST applied. And however, with the FX30, we are still getting that moire and aliasing on the window screen. So that's not going away, right? That is on both cameras. And here you can see them side by side. And there I added a slight boost of contrast and saturation to try to match those two cameras a little better. But yeah, I do think that the FX30 is pushing a tad magenta in the shadows. That's just my opinion. Here we go. This is so we get a little idea of everything, you know, dynamic range next to the window. This is just basic CST applied to the FX30. And here you can really see with my skin tones, to my eye, it looks like the FX30 is pushing magenta. And it's not really holding that window well either, in my opinion, right? So here goes the RX100 VII. Now this is look how horrible this is, right? This is me making some corrections to it, trying to bring my face back, and it's just gone. My face is gone, the window is gone, but notice how well HLG holds it down. The HLG mode is the way to go when you're shooting on these 8-bit cameras. So all of my A7C version 1 users out there, maybe you want to shoot on HLG. Don't be shooting log with an 8-bit camera, guys. It's not going to do you any favors. I think the HLG out of the can is wonderful. I've made no corrections to this image whatsoever. This is directly out of camera. Obviously, you're losing that window, but again, you know, it's pretty limited on dynamic range. However, it is rated, they did a rating, DxO gave the RX100 Mark VII a 12-stop dynamic range test, so there you go. But I think the HLG looks better in this side-by-side, I really do. But again, that's just my eyes. Notice how the RX100 there on the right is really losing the window. You are saving it a little bit better on the FX30. 8-bit versus 10-bit. Here we go with rolling shutter. So guys, the RX100 rolling shutter is pretty bad, but honestly, the FX30 is just as bad, as you'll soon see. Now, yeah, this is like a little bit rocky. This is handheld. They both have active stabs, so keep that in mind. And here goes the FX30, and look at this, right? The FX30 is gnarly. And this is what really was the nail in the coffin for me when it came to the Sony FX30. I was filming a short film in a jail cell, and I had the FX30 on an easy rig with my Leica Rs with the Metabone speed booster, and every time I barely moved around, the jail cells were so skewed and warbly. So that kind of sealed the deal for me. The rolling shutter is about twice as long as the FX3. Final chapter, looking at photos taken with the RX100 Mark VII versus the same exact photo taken with the Leica M10. I was using the Voltlander 75mm f2.5 vintage lens. Notice that shallow depth of field. Back to the RX100. Now I was doing my best to keep the RX100 at a 75mm focal length. They were both set to f4 though, and there's still going to be a big difference between that depth of field. Notice on the M10 how that little wire gate in the foreground just completely disappears even when it's also at f4. Notice with this building, this is with the RX100, notice those buildings back there, and then jump to the M10. Look at that, the fall off there. That dune buggy was very close to those buildings. So a huge difference there between full frame versus the tiny 1-inch sensor. It's going to be hard to have any shallow depth of field. You see that? I mean, just that little bit of fall off. And that's at f4 on full frame with the M10. Now I want us to take notice of the contrast here, okay? Now, keep in mind, look how much contrastier, kind of crunchier the RX100 is. Now, keep in mind, this is with my special Lightroom secret sauce applied to both. I always shoot RAW, so sorry for you JPEG folks out there, but there's still a big difference between these two images, right? Look at this area underneath the porch where the clothes are. This is the M10 versus the RX100. Look how much it pulls the clothes and that whole porch really out of the shadow. So it really has to do with different lighting conditions, the differences of this. Obviously you can throw a different lens on your M10. Now look, this is the RX100 falling apart indoors versus the M10. Look at that, the full frame sensor, very minimal noise, beautiful way it's handling the highlights and the shadows versus the RX100, it's just falling to bits. But when you're outdoors, we are limited to 75 millimeters on the full frame versus what we can do with a true 24 to 200 Zeiss lens in your pocket, not talking digital zoom, a true zoom lens. Okay, now we're just gonna look at some straight nighttime examples with the RX100 Mark VII because, when you are focusing on exposing for the highlights in the nighttime, I think it does do fairly well, right? None of these are with the flash. This is just all natural. This right here is dead of night, just the street lights, so pretty nice. But keep in mind, you always do have your onboard flash. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Doesn't matter who we are. What matters is our plan. No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.